Hello, everybody. What's going on? Welcome to your NHL draft preview show. This time, we're going to be covering our wish list that we're going to be doing for the Vancouver Canucks and their top four picks. And we have Zach Clarke from Sportsnet 650, the Prospect Show, with us once again. What is going on, Zach? Let's rock and roll, brother.
Excited to do a wish list. You know, it's always fun chatting draft prospects. And for Canucks right now, this is the number one thing that you're focusing on and the number one thing that you'll be wishing on. So hoping to land some big names today.
Yeah, we have so much draft coverage already. We're going to be doing so much more draft coverage. So subscribe, hit that like. I'd really appreciate it. But let's get this started. The way this is going to work is we're going to be talking about players that we're really wishing that we could get, and then players that maybe could be a little bit more realistic. So we have our first rounder. It's going to be a top three pick. We're going to be probably picking around that 26-ish range with that Minnesota Wild pick. We're going to be picking in the 33rd for the Vancouver Canucks pick, and around that 42nd to 45th round for the pick for the San Jose Sharks. So let's get right off to it. Obviously, for me, if we win the lottery, let's just assume we win the lottery just for fun. My wish list, of course, is Gavin Mckenna. Just the guy's unbelievable. The creativity, the way he holds up the puck and creates and finds plays, especially in the offensive zone. The guy's a special player. Might take a little bit longer to reach that top end ceiling, but I know Stenberg's amazing and Chase Reed is really flying. Same with Malhotra, by the way. But my original wish pick here is going to be Gavin Mckenna. I think that would be best case scenario for Vancouver. What do you think, Zach?
I'm going to have to certainly agree. McKenna is the number one offensive threat in this draft. And at the stage of the rebuild the Canucks are at, you can afford to take a guy who, as you said, is probably a few years away from being an NHL superstar. You know, you don't need someone to jump in and have an immediate impact like someone like Macklin Celebrini. You can simply let him play out his game and turn into what you hope to be an incredibly dynamic playmaking winger, which he certainly projects to be at the NHL level.
And what's nice about this is the realistic pick is probably going to be somewhere in this range. But just for fun, Zach, let's just say we're going to be picking third here. Because Stenberg, I believe we think the same way that we're going to be looking at Stenberg if we pick number two. Let's say we're picking third here and you had a chance to pick one of those guys. Is there anyone that's really standing out for you that you would pick?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting kind of dilemma once you fall out of the top two because there is such a clear and prevalent gap between the first two prospects and anyone else in this draft. And so I think the names you have there are the names that you would expect. For me, the biggest differentiator between what makes sense for the Canucks to take is simply position, whether you feel like you value a defender more or a forward more. Because for me, you either go Chase Reed or Caleb Malhotra here, being the kind of next obvious picks. The caveat with Malhotra, of course, being if you think Manny Malhotra is going to be the next head coach for the Canucks, I'm not so sure whether they would want to have a father-son coaching. As of course, you think about it, that could put strain on a relationship if things aren't going well during the hockey team. So that is something to consider. I think me personally, however, I would want to go Malhotra. I just like him that little bit more, and I also think that he's exactly what the Canucks culture is trying to cultivate here. You look at someone like Braden Coots, described as a dog on a bone. Might not have the most incredible offensive upside, but he's the type of guy who's a leader. He's good on and off the ice, and the work ethic is absolutely through the roof. All of those things apply to Caleb Malhotra, but with a higher offensive ceiling. So for as good as Reed, and indeed maybe even Keaton Verhoff can potentially be, I think Caleb Malhotra is just more what the Canucks are looking for at this stage in time.
Yeah, and the Malhotra dynamic with potentially Manny being the coach would be an interesting dynamic. I don't think it's honestly too much of a deal. To be honest, I don't think it really matters. Just pick the best player that you believe in. I don't really care about the dynamics outside of that. That being said, it is a fascinating thing because Malhotra right now is flying up the standings. He's having a really good playoffs. Now, maybe not against the best team in the world. They're just crushing them, right? But at the end of the day, like, he's flying up the standings, but Chase Reed, the guy's a dynamic. He can play big minutes. He's physical. He's a rover out there around the ice. He's a very good defenseman. So for me, it's kind of a tricky one. So I would say, best case scenario for us, one of those two guys. And honestly, that's kind of the realistic one too. So yeah, very interesting one. If you have to choose between one or the other, which one would you go with?
I'm going to go with Caleb Malhotra. As I said, I just think that he's the exact kind of culture you want to set, and that's something you want to do early on in a rebuild. You want to get the guys who are going to have your team play the right way and learn the right way, develop the right way, and that's what Caleb Malhotra would bring. The other kind of caveat with Chase Reed is that, of course, if you do truly believe that Zeev Buium is to be your number one defender of the future, Chase Reed is too good to be a number two, at least too good of a prospect. He should go somewhere. He deserves to go somewhere where he'll be treated, maybe not as a current number one, but at least as a future number one. And here in Vancouver, I'm not sure that's the case. So my heart lies with Caleb Malhotra.
So let's kind of go down to our next pick here, and they're looking at some of the guys here from 11 to 20. Some of these guys would probably be more, I would say, pipe dreams, potentially being in those spots. But there are some interesting names, even in this range, that some lists have them down at 30 or 29 or 28. And one of the names there is Xavier Villeneuve, who's one of the most biggest boom or bust prospects in the league. So for me, just for the fun of it, I'm going to say best case scenario, my wish list is if he's available with our pick, that's the guy you go. I know he's a defenseman. I know we don't really need defense as much, but there's just so much immense talent there. I just feel like the defensive liabilities that he has is not going to say overrated, because when I watch him play, like, he definitely holds the puck a lot and makes a lot of mistakes with it. But man, he's unbelievably talented. I know we need wingers. We're still going to get wingers when we kind of go through the rest of my picks here. But I just think the top end potential, and if he actually does slip to around that 25, 26 range where Vancouver could be, which it is all possible, considering especially how many defensemen are going to go ahead of him as well. Centers usually go first, or really early as well. So I'm going to say my wish list pick, my best case scenario pick would be Xavier Villeneuve. Who would you go here out of this list, or maybe over on this list? Who do you like?
Well, if we go back to the previous one, I think that I'll pick one from here, and I'll go Oliver Suvanto. I admit that of the names here, Xavier Villeneuve is probably my second least favorite, only ahead of Mark Gustafsson. I just think that, not only for all the same reasons as Chase Reed, but even more so because he's a lefty, as is Zeev Buium. Yeah. So he's really fun. I can't get there. Suvanto is incredible. Don't let that stat line fool you. That's at the Liga. He is one of the youngest players in the entire draft. He's really big, and he plays the game just so well. He looks like he has a decade of pro experience when you watch him play, and the kid is barely 17. I mean, he is such a good player already. He is one of the guys in the draft that, at least for the upper end of the first round, probably does have less offensive upside than a lot of the other names we're going to be talking about today. But if you want a guy who you just feel so confident is going to be an NHL player for your team and play really responsible minutes down the middle, Suvanto tracks to be all of that. And I tell you what, while the production in sheltered minutes in the Liga hasn't necessarily been there when he was playing junior, bear in mind, as a 16-year-old in junior, in his first year, he was over point per game. So it's not like that 11 points in 48 games means he doesn't have offense. He's a 17-year-old playing in a strong men's league. So I really like Suvanto. I think he could end up being a little bit of an underrated player from this draft just because the numbers aren't as flashy as maybe some other prospects.
And that's probably why there is a shot that he might be available in that 25, 26 range. Also, if you think about it, his skating actually is probably one of the weaker aspects of his game. So if he needs to obviously probably gain a step or at least half a step to really kind of being, even though he is powerful, he's 6'3", I just feel like the skating could use some work. And if some team is looking for more of a skating skating centerman, then maybe that's why he potentially slips.
I can see that. I'm just gonna interject with the one thing though, is as much as I agree he does not have skating as a strength, and I would almost argue, this sounds contrary to what I was just hyping him up, he doesn't necessarily do any one thing incredibly, but it's rather that he doesn't do any one thing poorly either. He's just so well-rounded. Completely correct about the skating. He's not an elite skater. He's one of the probably lower-end skaters in the draft, but I think he's probably good enough that the rest of the kit's able to round it out. But I mean, I'm good to move on from Suvanto. There's some other players I'm really excited to talk about as well.
If I'm not mistaken, though, he's going to be at the U18, right? So I'm pretty sure he is going to be thing. So he could have a big tournament there coming up as well.
Well, he's played some big minutes for Finland already. I believe he's represented Finland on 6 different occasions already in his career, which is insane to say. But you're totally right. Not only is he eligible for the U18s, I think there's a good chance the Finns just send him right up to the World Juniors team as well.
Yeah, really interesting pick. So that's going to be pretty fascinating to see. Now, let's talk about a little bit more realistic options with that pick. There's a couple of guys here I very much like. I've been really struggling with this because we've talked about the Zach like so many times with Alexander Command, how we've talked about it. Maddox, Ryan looks really good
There's
there.
some great names
Preston with You Want the Speed. But I'm going to go with pure just realisticness. Most likely a lot of smaller wingers are going to be available. And usually when you have smaller wingers available down further in the list, that's kind of what I'm going to be looking at. So I think maybe Alexander Command might be gone already. I think maybe Maddox would be gone already. So I'm going to actually go with Mathis Preston here. You know what? He's not the smallest guy, right? He's 5'11". Like, it's not the smallest guy in the world, but he's super fast. Extremely talented guy. When he blows by you, it's it. Like, he kind of has that Grabner. Here's a name Canucks fans will remember before we trade him, Beauvillier kind of style where he just blows by people. But then if he gets caught up, well, that's the biggest problem with him. What do you do with that? Does he have the hands to get around it? Does he have the two-way ability? But if he pushes forward and if he actually uses his skating to a significant advantage, this is where Mathis Preston really could be one of the more interesting prospects in this whole entire category. So, you know what? I think I know Klepov's another guy that I really like, and JP Hurlburt, if you want more of a sniper, right? But Mathis Preston, if you want speed, I think that would be very, very fascinating. So if the Vancouver Canucks now, with the way I'm going the draft, we're not getting a lot of size. If we're going to be going to McKenna, Xavier, and then we're heading potentially, like, who knows how this is going to go. Don't worry, we're going to get size with my next pick. But, Zach, what do you think about that, and who do you like on this list?
I mean, man, there's some really good names here. The Canucks could take nearly anyone that's on the screen right now, and I'd be pretty happy with the selection. It's hard to argue with Mathis Preston. I mean, you're totally right. That speed down the wall is just truly terrifying to watch if you're a defender. There's a lot of guys here that I do like. I have, when we've discussed their draft before, been a big proponent of the Canucks going for some big guys down the middle. And you've got two of my favorite in the draft right at the bottom there in Ryan Rubeck and Maddox Desjardins. Now, I especially love Maddox Desjardins. It's not the first time you've heard me talk about him, so I won't spend too much time on him. Although, from things that I was hearing today, he might not be on the board by
apparently he's pushing high now. He's pushing.
He should
up,
be.
Zach.
He's had a great playoffs. He's had a great regular season. I do like the Preston show because I do think the Canucks need speed, but just to be different, I'll go with JP Hurlburt. I like him. Of the two guys at the top there that are both U.S. born with 97 points in the draft eligible in CHL rather. There we go, 97 points. I do like Hurlburt's game just a bit more than Nikita Klepov. Klepov's more of a perimeter player, and he kind of tracks similarly to McKenna in terms of play style, but not upside. Obviously, McKenna kind of cream of the crop when it comes to that, but I think you can't take too many perimeter guys in the draft. Hurlburt, he can stay on the outside a bit too much at times, but I think he does a better job at creating chances down the middle. And I mean, again, above 40 tucks in the WHL. He's a guy that really knows how to score, and I'd be pretty happy with, although, again, so many good names here.
Yeah.
Of course, Shilov's another really fun one. And yeah, you mentioned it off the top, Jacob. Alexander Command, another one of my favorite prospects here. So there's a lot of guys here, despite being ranked from 21 to 30, that I wouldn't be shocked to see in the top 20 when the draft does end up rolling around.
And Klepov, another guy, just putting up crazy numbers. Like, this really is a really fascinating tier. That's why I said, man, like, I would be very much interested in the Vancouver Canucks if they had a potential chance to move up even a little bit. To get one of these guys, like maybe move that pick in that 40 range and move up in a top 30 pick around this spot. I know it would cost a little bit. Maybe it would cost a second rounder in the next season or the one following season after that. But like just being able to get another one of these guys in this tier, because I believe this is an interesting draft where you have those top guys, the top two guys everybody's talking about. Then there's like a match of like an incredibly solid defenseman. Like there's like 6-7 of them. Like they're all matched together. Then there's like a little mix. And then you have these guys. And these guys, I believe there's a ton of NHL players from this crop. This is what we're looking at. And there's some guys in the next crop that we're going to be looking at that also. I mean, one of those guys you see right there, Liam Ruck, who we didn't even mention because they have him at 31 in this list. He could very much easy go earlier. So maybe would that even be in that realistic range for us when we're thinking about the wish list? Well, if that's the case, if you have Liam Ruck there, then maybe I might even say, you know what, maybe I'll gamble on the Liam Ruck there at 25, we're at 26, and then just try to grab his brother at the next pick. That's another option. So A lot of interesting names. But a lot of the guys that you're picking, you're going size. I'm going speed. It's going to be fascinating to kind of see how that works moving forward because I believe you kind of need a little bit of two. All right, let's go on with the next pick. And man, there's one guy here that I love. I love so much. And if we draft him, I would be so excited. That's Wyatt Cullen, man. Wyatt Cullen. The only reason he's even remotely here is because he's had a string of really bad luck, a lot of energy. He's a very high energy, high pace forward. He forces turnovers. He creates extremely well offensively. And one of the, I know this is like a catchphrase or whatever, work ethic, how you can't really draft through. He's one of those guys that has that super high work ethic, and this is one of those things that we're talking about. Like, if the Vancouver Canucks had third pick and they picked Carson Karls, they're picking him because of that insanely high work ethic. If they're going around getting a guy like Alexander Command, why? Because you're picking a guy with an insanely high work ethic, tenacity. Same with Stenberg, number 2. It's the work ethic aspect. This is another one of those guys that has that work ethic. I think he's going to be a really special player. So if he's actually available as my not only realistic-ish type pick, kind of a pipe dream, I guess that would probably be more realistic because this is the range he's looking for. So I guess I'll do my pipe dream then after. But let's go with you. Let's go with your wish list first and then tell me your realistic pick first. So any of these two picks or wherever you like.
Well, yeah, Wyatt Cullen's a great shout. For me, it's tough because I had a name in mind from the start, but now that you've called me out on going for size, it's tough to say. You know where I'm going with this one. Look, Brooks Rogowski, all right? 6'6", 230,
there it is.
30-pound center. I'm not saying you need to draft all the big centers, but I am saying I'd like at least one.
Screw speed and skill. Get it, the biggest guy. Isn't there like a 7'1" guy in this draft somewhere in the 6th, 7th round? Someone told me.
Yes, Karmanov, Alexander Karmanov, 7-foot defender. Yeah, he's when I made a fun little mock draft going all the way to the 7th round. 7th rounders or whatever. He's who I picked just because let's have fun through the rebuild. Anyways, I wanted to make a point about Rogowski. I'm actually not just picking him because of his size. And funnily enough, I'm not just picking him because of his on-ice play, where he's been just below point per game. For the Generals, no. I'm picking him because he's an incredibly talented multi-sport athlete, played baseball at a very high level.
Wow,
I have to say, I love guys that are multi-sport athletes. I think it teaches a lot of different things that are hard to be taught in a gym or, working out, training on the ice, things like that. And so he's a guy that I wouldn't mind seeing the Canucks take. And he's also kind of a little bit more of a realistic option. I think he's very likely to still be there by the time they get to the 33rd overall. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, he's a good one. The Ruck Twins, I mean, at this point, this market has spent so long talking about them. I don't think we need to spend much time. Yeah. Obviously, they'd be elite. The biggest concern is just we've never really seen them without each other. So what would they look like if they are split up? Say a similar question to, who knows what the Sedin twins' careers would have been like if they never played with each other, right? Last guy on this list I wanted to touch on is Jackson Cover, who's another name, much like Maddox Desjardins, I've been told to expect to see higher than ranked. Teams really like this guy. Another guy who's just a really true pro. You might like him, Jacob, because he's on the faster side. So that's always nice to see for a winger as well. And just strikes me as a guy that, again, is going to get into NHL lineups. So he's a name that I don't expect to see available come 40, but maybe still at 33.
Interesting name here is Jack Extall as well. Kind of a two-way guy. Obviously has a bit of the NHL pedigree with his family. He kind of excels at kind of going into those really hard, dirty areas as well. So that's an interesting name. And he's only 6 foot tall, so, he's not the smallest guy, not the biggest guy. So it's really fascinating. So I already told you guys my realistic one. If I'm going to go back here and say absolute wish list, because Mathis Preston would have been nice before and all that stuff. But I'm a huge fan of Alexander Command. Like, if you guys don't know, man, I'm not sure if you guys follow me as well, but if you guys follow my channel, and I hope you guys do, so subscribe, that would be great. And also hit up and watch all of Zach Clarke's stuff on Sportsnet 650 and all socials. Nice plug there. You like that? There you
absolutely. Hey, Command's a guy we talked about at Prospect Central. He's a great shout. I love it. Great shout.
Watch our hit there. It was awesome. We did it a few weeks back. It was a lot of fun. I was a bit nervous, but I thought we had a great great time, and definitely watch our hit because we talked a lot about Alexander Command. But yeah, he's another high work ethic guys. Does he have that offensive ceiling? Who knows? But he's a hockey player's hockey player. The guy just goes in the corners, wins pucks battles, does all the little things, a jack of all trades type guy. I'm just a big fan of him. So I'm going to go with Alexander Command there with a bit of my wish list there.
And
so
honestly,
now we're...
I just wanted to quickly add on to the Command with the offensive upside thing. You know, I think people tend to look at numbers from the SHL and from the U20 National and think, oh, the smaller number, lower offensive upside. If you extrapolate his point per game pace over the course of a CHL season, he's right up there in the 80, 90 point range. I think he could really just be a great player. I mean, we're very much on the same page, but I think Command is definitely a good wish list shout. I'd love him on this team.
And the funny thing is with my final pick here, because we're going to be picking probably around that 40, kind of 42 to 45 pick range, is a name that is on this list, and I just talked about him, is Jack Hextall. Big fan of him. I think that would be a fantastic pick, getting him where he's at. And you know what? Just to transition into kind of my more realistic. It's funny because I like Brooks there as well. So and there's some size. So funny we kind of covered a little bit of both.
Yeah, you got on my side eventually. Get on the size train.
Hey,
buddy.
I am a big fan of the size. I'm just trying to think about how. Because as we know, like Zach, we've watched a million of these things, and when we go through these lists, you see right-handed defensemen, really big players, centers especially, they always go. That's why, I don't personally believe a guy like Maddox is going to be there at around that 30. I don't think Alexander Command's going to be around that spot. Even Ryan, these are all really big, skilled potential guys that could be. That reverse hit that Maddox had, what was it today? I think it was today, was absolutely nasty. This is a guy. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of, snipers, smaller shooter guys. But, hey, I'm with you, Zach. If these big guys are available at our picks, they're skilled enough that I would go exactly and do what you would be wanting to do. But I would love to know if there's anybody on this specific list here with our final pick, or maybe someone else that you're interested in. Let us know.
Yeah, Jacob, you came to my side, so I will come to your side as well. My pick for this is not going to be anyone on this list. It's someone you might have scrolled down a bit for. Tommy Blale from the Moncton Wildcats. Now, if you want to talk about someone in the QMJHL who's an incredible offensive defenseman, the first name that comes to mind, yes, Xavier Villeneuve. Tommy Blale's right there with him in terms of production. A little bit lower, sure, but he's a bigger frame, a more well-rounded defender, and also has that incredible offensive upside.
Just to interrupt you real quick, he's ranked 41 on NHL Tankathon. He's 6 foot, 170 pounds.
Yeah, okay, exactly. So he's got just a little bit more of that NHL frame, if you will, while still having that incredible offensive upside. Now, I am somewhat kidding because, again, I don't want to take an offensive defenseman in this draft. But if we are going to, that's the one that I want it to be, because you can get him with a little bit later of a pick. If it's your fourth pick in the draft, I'm not losing sleep over it. And then I think he has the similar to offensive upside to someone like Villeneuve with maybe a little bit safer floor.
Zach, Sportsnet 650 Prospect Show. Go watch it. It's a great show. Zach, when's your next episode?
So it's actually after the Canucks postgame show tonight, but it is mostly every Saturday. Sometimes in Canucks games it gets punted to Sunday, but it'll be on Sportsnet 650. You can listen to it on 650 AM radio or sportsnet.ca. And it's always a great time chatting prospects with you.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. On to the next one. I appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Cheers.